we are now talking to our speaker who we just saw an amazing talk from. Everything's amazing, 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 amazing. Okay, got it all out. So Emily Freeman. So Emily, thanks for taking some time with us this morning. You know,
yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Kind of chat about that. You know, one thing, if for people who are very observant will notice, that there's kind of a little bit of a dissonance because Emily's recording looks similar but not quite the same, and it might be messing with you.
Yeah. In the meantime, I think Emily pulled off an art heist.
I did. I totally did.
May have stolen some paintings.
I traveled around the world.
Around the world quickly. So speaking of like stealing things, I'm going to steal some questions from that people are wanting to know about your talk and your things, right? So,
I love it.
So here's the thing, right? Most of us have made changes to production before. And by most of us, I mean all of us, because I mean, if you're not making changes to production, what the hell are you actually doing, right?
Yeah.
So, but changing production is really stressful, right?
It is.
And like I believe we can't prevent incidents, right? Like, and we're not going to be able to avoid them. They're going to happen. But that being said, what's a key takeaway for us to think about to make sure that we don't, like bankrupt our entire company by pushing one line of buggy code? What's like
Could you imagine being in that room? Like the amount of stress and sweat, like it would just, the intensity of that. No, I think some of the things I said, which is like, number one, feature flags are awesome. Love it. Love our friends at LaunchDarkly. Don't reuse the feature flags. Point number one. And then I think the other error was this sort of manual deploy, right? Especially with no checks. Like there are like cases where, folks still need to manually deploy. That's okay, but maybe have someone around. And when you can, please move toward an automated system. So that's where you're looking at CI/CD, you're looking at a pipeline. And that does a couple things for you, right? It automatically runs the changes for you and deploys for you. But it also, you can set up your tests and that can be like, everything from functionality of the actual code to security gates to make sure that you're not doing anything, that puts you at risk. So all of that runs automatically. You're not relying on humans to be perfect all the time because we know we're flawed.
If you were in that situation where you were offering advice to a future Knight Capital, what would you say is a good starting point? Because they're all really good points, but they only had a month. So what do you do day one?
Well, part of my problem is the fact that they only had a month, and I feel like this was a leadership failure. I understand, like, they didn't want to waste money by building a system for something had it not gotten approval, but I think you can kind of rely on assumptions a little bit and make that investment. And the worst case scenario, you waste engineering hours, but you can also think of that as like an exercise for those engineers. Like anytime people are taking on a challenge, they're getting better at what they do. And so I think that's really important, but stressing people out, like mistakes happen in time crunches. It just happens. So avoiding that sort of 1 month scenario would be ideal. But first steps, I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
Well, and that was sort of the thing I wanted to kind of double down is like, to me, it sounds like the answer to that was, well, the first thing you do is invent a time machine and go back and don't have a 1 month crunch.
Exactly.
So barring that, I think that's sort of the thing too, because we can sit there and we can say, okay, well, this happened because there was a failure in leadership and all this stuff, but you know what, all those individual contributors, which are the ones that, got put on the line for the buggy code, what do? You can just be like, well, leadership sucks, right? So, and I think there's a lot of folks would want to think about, like, when you are, whether you are empowered or not, or you feel that you are or you not, wherever it is, when we feel like we've got that leadership challenge, but as an individual contributor, I mean, and to me, I kind of think about, like, Emily brought up a bunch of points, and my answer to which one should I start with is yes. And I don't mean all of them, but I mean any of them.
Start anywhere.
Yeah.
There's not a wrong answer, right? And that's what that comes back to is the hardest part about trying to get better is avoiding that analysis paralysis, right?
Yes.
So I've talked to plenty of customers who have been where they want to do this transformation, And it's, you know, and they're like, well, we got to think about every single thing. Well, what about when this happened? What about this? What do they say? Listen, what's going to happen? You're going to spend 18 months thinking about all the freaking ifs. And you know what? You're going to miss some of them anyway. So you might as well just get started and try some stuff.
The hardest part about running is putting your shoes on and getting out the door.
Just doing it.
Just go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is where, like, if you're looking at those transformations, pulling a small piece out, even if it's not something like, you know, stay away from like your cart service, the things that actually earn you money, but pull something small out and run an experiment on it, right? Like implement CI/CD, implement, you know, a robust test suite, the whole thing with that. And then you're kind of going to learn those lessons along the way, and you'll get sharper and faster, and then you can apply it to the sort of bigger services. But it also, that experiment serves as a really strong data point to sell other engineers, to sell executives, whomever you need to convince.
So you just brought something up, and I'm gonna this is gonna be groundbreaking. So everybody get ready.
Okay.
So I promised that when I hit 10,000 followers on Twitter, I would reveal the secret to DevOps success. And Emily, you just teed me up for it. So everybody get ready. So here is the thing: the secret to DevOps success is piloting, just like Emily said, but the secret of that secret is cheat. Stack the deck for success. And I'm not even kidding, right? So Emily nailed it where she said, don't pick the most important project or most important, it could be a product or feature, but also don't pick something that nobody gives a crap about either. Yeah. It has to have business value. But here's the thing. Don't staff that product or staff that experiment or that pilot with the people who think DevOps is dumb or they're cranky or whatever. Find the people that already are along, because what's going to happen is you're going to find rough edges. And you need the people that are going to be able to go, okay, well, I didn't quite work the way I want, versus people that are a little resistant. As soon as they hit that bump, they're like, told you this. I mean, how many times do you hear that? You know, we all know the coworker that is, I could have told you this would happen. In fact, I did tell you many times, and you ignore me. So that's the thing.
It's also, it reminds me of like growth mindset versus fixed mindset, right? You know, and I feel like you have to own that sort of growth mindset, which is, it comes from Carol Dweck, the book Mindset. But making sure that you know, you're not seeing something like, my best example, I am not naturally talented at math. I wish I was, I am not. And so, but when I was growing up, I had a fixed mindset. And so the minute I hit like, you know, trigonometry, I was like, no, not for me. I can't, I'm just not good at this. And that's a fixed mindset. Whereas like a growth mindset, it's like, oh, this is a challenge. I can learn from this. You kind of view it as like a puzzle, like a fun thing.
And that's also a good way to empower people too, which you talk about empowering teams.
Yes, absolutely.
And when you do that, I was going to say that the key is, like, we talk about measurement is part of DevOps, and here's why it matters, because you want to show success. The way you're going to get, because it was great, we're like, okay, stack the deck and cheat, but now you have to get everybody else to come along. The way you get them to come along is because now you're showing results. And I say, I'm from Missouri, show me, right? Like, get the details. We have an interesting question. Maybe it's more of a, here, you know, it wouldn't be a tech conference with, it's not really a question so much as it's a comment, but I'm going to let this one go because I enjoy it.
It's like, let's just be honest about what's
right. So someone says, you know, I know the story of Night Capital, but I like to think that they were a division of Wayne Enterprises. So I don't know, you know, where that goes. But that does lead into a question someone in the chat has asked and said, Emily, did you work at Night Capital?
No, good God. I think I would have gone into goat farming or something. That would have been the end of my time. I mean, like, you know what? I'm out. Bye. Like,
that'd be so stressful. Her hair would be gray.
It would like literally change. It, you know, like it's a reverse Benjamin Button. It's just like quick.
You mean natural?
Like the Crypt Caper, but like fast. Like that guy in Indiana Jones, you know, when he like, he chose poorly.
So to avoid looking like that as a manager, like, what should a manager do when they realize that they found themselves embedded in release schedules that they can't match without really risking night watch, right? Like, what do you do?
So this is where, so obviously leadership has a greater, you know, sort of burden on them to push back on certain things. But I think sometimes engineers, they feel like they kind of put themselves in that sort of code monkey box where it's like, well, I execute, I don't have ownership over this. And sometimes if leadership isn't giving you that sort of empowerment or autonomy, one, consider finding a new job. But if that's not possible, the second option is to really kind of take that on yourself. Don't be afraid to speak up and say, like, listen, if you want this done well and correctly with all this money on the line, this is what it's going to take. And we can't do it in a month. Like there needs to be some forethought and some pushback. And also like not asking for permission all the time, right? Like I think one of the best things you can do, especially when there's like a small blast radius, is just do the thing and then beg for forgiveness if it doesn't work. But do the thing. Like don't ask permission to write tests with your code. Like that's just good engineering. So do the job that you feel is necessary and that you're proud of, and then kind of convince the people around you why that's the better approach.
So you're promoting skunk works, right? Shadow engineering.
Yes, I think so.
So again, kind of a thing came in. It's maybe not a thing to think about. Is when you talk about deleting code, right? About deleting legacy code, but like, what do you think about thinking about not just legacy code, but legacy processes? About like,
Oh, yes.
And that is almost a little scarier to do, right? Than like the code is like, that's just the machine stuff, but the processes, that's where the people live,
Yes.
What are some ways to think about when you want to start getting rid of these legacy processes in a way that doesn't get people really worried about their cheese moving?
Yeah, this one's, I think, much harder than deleting code, because deleting code, it's like, and you can easily undo the code. Right. Like we have source control.
Also, you just press delete.
Yeah,
there is literally a button. There is no delete my legacy process button.
Just
Command A.
I think with processes, it gets trickier because someone is probably clinging to that process for dear life. Like they're just like, this is how it's always been done. And what we have to realize and have an empathy for is we all have our comfort levels. Like I think you see this a lot on teams. I think every team I've ever been on has like 3 communication tools. So it'd be like, oh, well, I use Skype for Business, and I use Teams, and I use Slack, and whatever. And so it's like everyone's gone to their corner and like, this is my tool. I will not use that other tool. And it's like, is this really the hill we're going to die on? Like, this is it. This is the thing. But the root of it is you have this comfort level in the thing that feels best for you. And sometimes it's, a UI that your brain kind of works naturally with. Sometimes it's just habits. Like, this is what I've always done. But kind of having empathy for that and then using that sort of data and storytelling. So my big thing is convincing someone to do something. Persuasion, it's an emotional argument. Even if, we're engineers and we're not emotional and we're intellectual, blah, blah, blah.
Speak for yourself.
So, like,
I am
your
not
lizard
intellectual
brain,
at all.
But your lizard brain, it's up there and it's like, it responds to that emotion, hope and fear and all of that. And so if you can use that and trigger that, but then support it with data, you have a really compelling argument.
Which brings it back to the quick wins Maddie was talking about, those little stack the deck things where you can say, look what we did. It worked so well.
Exactly.
Yay, reward.
Exactly.
I'd like to point out, someone in the chat did have a comment about my secret to DevOps success. And they said, cheat to win, F that. And my response to that is, do you have 10,000 followers on Twitter? No, I don't think so. But more practically and more useful, can you give any examples of where you've seen like good examples of teams that are deleting code on the reg, right? Where that's happening?
I mean, like, I'm not going to name companies, but here's my list of good DevOps companies, not list of bad ones. Could you imagine?
Okay. We all have that list. We just don't say it out
loud.
loud.
100%. It's in our head. It's just, I'll never share that.
Yes.
I think when you look at people that are moving fast, while still not crashing and burning every week. So these are people like, if you're deploying regularly, you're probably in this code, you're in these good habits already. And so that will kind of increase your ability to kind of implement some of these things. I really think deleting code is something that senior and principal engineers should be doing most, like when you're thinking about like the architecture, when you're thinking about the long-term product roadmap and like what the basis and the sort of standards of your code base should be, that's where at that level of technical leadership, they should be the ones going through and like really reviewing things while teaching your less experienced engineers how to do so. But I think it's easier for, the new folks to be writing code to get into that rhythm, and then the people who know the code base a little bit better to be delete, 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 delete.
That's a good point.
Not that the point of the Fireside chat is for me to have a whole conversation with people in Discord without being in it, but I would be remiss to not.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's cool. So apparently the reply was that prepare to win is a better choice of words. And that could be, but I would say the way that we approach gameplay in my family is play to win, don't have fun. So this is also, by the way, why I am an MC and not actually speaking at a DevOpsDays event at this point, because nobody should be listening to me. I want to bring it back around I'm not going to say all kidding aside, but some kidding aside. We talked a little bit before. I want to bring back to, it's brought up the connection between why growth mindset is so connected to DevOps transformation. Why? Yeah. Can we dig into that a little bit more? Why is that such an apt metaphor, if you will, or modality or frame of thinking?
Because this is all really hard. Everything you do is really stinking hard. And so if you are approaching something, you're going to hit speed bumps along the way. Everyone here has, said oh, that feature, that's a 3. I'll be done by 2. It'll be fine. And it's 4 comes around, you're ah, shit. I already said it was a 3. It's actually, whatever. It's how do I kind of make up for this? We've all had the opposite as well, which is why estimating is just hard. But I really think it's true. It's this 13 took 30 minutes. Awesome. I think you're going to run into speed bumps, some technical, some people, and kind of being able to not view that speed bump as, this insurmountable challenge. Look at it is a molehill, not Everest. You can get over it or around it or through it. Figure it out. But having that sort of growth mindset really helps you approach those things.
Zooming out on the bigger picture, like what you mentioned, it was about code, but having junior people really zoom in and more experienced people can zoom out and bringing that perspective to each other.
Oh my gosh, yes, I think that's invaluable.
So we got time for one more question, and it's going to be a biggie. So thinking about hybrid organizations where you've got multiple companies working together, maybe you've got systems integrators. Well, no, I'm talking about you're contracting to a consulting company or, a lot in the government especially. There's a lot of work with different SIs, and those different SI, you can have multiple SIs in the same agency.
What's an SI?
System integrator. It's another company, right? So when you have that, what are some of the things when you're dealing with a hybrid organization like that? With those organizations, they have different cultures and priorities. How do we DevOps this stuff?
I think you just go in, you yell at everyone, you tell them exactly what your plan is, that it's the best. You say, I have 10,000 followers, and you back out.
This entire conference has really gone off the rails at this point. So.
I love it. It's online conferences, we can't be with each other, so we might as well have fun the way we can. So I think it's tricky, right? And I think you can kind of apply growth mindset to this. You all are about to see a tail, that's Walter. So I really think, using your persuasion, but also being open. When you're looking at disagreements, whether that's an approach or a product disagreement, kind of really going into it with an open mind and thinking about this as, something that you're curious about. Be curious about the other people's opinions and perspectives, listen, and then don't view it as I've got to win this, right? Because when you go into an argument like that and you're this is my corner, I will die on this hill, this is mine, someone will be declared the victor, but you lose a ton of social capital. You lose that sort of trust with the people you're speaking to. And so I think just being open to their points and finding those compromises along the way is really powerful.
Emily, thank you so much for taking your time this morning, taking your time to answer questions and chat with people in the Discord, since you're allowed to do that and I'm not right now. But this has been really, really great. Everybody,